Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for our patience while we worked out a few technical difficulties. We are here tonight for the candidate forum for the Chico Area Recreation District. We thank our audience and we certainly thank our candidates for running. My name is Linda McMichael and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Butte County. The League recently celebrated its 100th anniversary, and part of what we do is host candidate forums. We think that this is a vital part of the democratic process, and we are so happy to be here and to host our candidates. I wanted to take a moment to say a few things about a special district. CARD is a special district, and what exactly is a special district? Special districts have 4 general characteristics. They're a form of government. They have governing boards. Here we are tonight. They provide services and facilities, and they have defined geographical boundaries. They can run from A to Z, airports to zoos, and in a nutshell, they provide focused service. California's first special district was the Turlock Irrigation District, formed in 1887, and its purpose, of course, was to provide water for farmers. In the case of CARD, CARD was formed 72 years ago, in 1948. Its geographical territory is about 225 square miles, and it has a board of directors of 5. There are 2 open slots in November, and we have 3 candidates here tonight to join us. So again, welcome. We did solicit questions from the community, and those will be reflected. The format here is that you have 2 minutes of introduction. You have 2 minutes to answer the questions. There are 5 questions, and you have 2 minutes to do a closing. We have randomly selected the order in which candidates will speak, and we will start with Mr. Merz. And Mr. Merz, you will have an opening of 2 minutes. Please begin.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. Sorry, my
no apologies.
My computer and I will have a talk later. The reason I'm running, basically, I've lived in Chico since 1974, moved here to finish my degree in political science at Chico State, and have been involved in a pretty wide variety of positions with nonprofits in particular over the years, primarily in the environmental field. I also met my wife in Chico. We've been married 40 years. We have 3 kids and 5 grandkids, and Chico's home. I did serve on the board of CARD back in 1986 through 90. And of course, I've always paid attention to what's going on as best I can, though I have lots of interests, again, like I said, in the environment in general. And I currently serve in terms of activities on the, as chair of the board of Friends of Bidwell Park, and also the conservation chair for the Alth-Cal Audubon Society. So I believe my years of experience in this town and my love for this town are why I'm running.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lando, you are next.
Certainly. I thank the lead for hosting this, and I think the voters have an excellent choice. I think any one of us would do a good job. I've obviously worked with Michael on the board for a while, and I've worked with John throughout my career. My background, I've served on many boards. Currently, I'm the chair of River Partners. I was the interim manager of the Feather River Rec and Park District. Currently, I'm serving as the interim general manager of the Paradise Irrigation District. I have expertise in both management and finance, along with planning. I think that the district, particularly over this next year, is facing really tough times. And I think it's important to have some continuity of leadership. And I hope I provide a strong voice to help the district move forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Worley?
Yes, well, I've lived in Chico since the very early 70s. I came here and graduated from high school. So I actually came as a young adult, teenager, young adult, and I've watched CARD just sort of grow. Moved here before the CARD Center was built. Went off to various places, went to college in the Bay Area, came back, and have been active in the community. Was active with John in the appropriate technology field. We never seem to use that term anymore, but back in the 80s. And yeah, seem to remember some famous guy saying, oh, solar will never, back in the 70s, oh, solar will never make it. It's 30 years away. Well, now it's 40 years away, and it's here. So one of the things I did is when I came on the district board in 2012, we were just coming out of the 2008 recession, and it was quite a retraction. And the district really had to make some changes there. We'd weathered the storm better than some of the other entities around town. But I see the COVID crisis as something similar to that. And we need, at that time, we had some institutional knowledge, and I think we need some institutional knowledge going forward, coming out of this crisis.
Thank you. Okay, our first question will go to Mr. Lando. So the mission of CARD is to provide recreation opportunities in a coordinated and cost-effective manner for the community of Chico. Now that Measure A has been defeated, what are your ideas to fill the gap in recreational facilities in our community? And pools and youth services were singled out as two particular concerns. So we'll start with Mr. Lando.
The board is moving ahead with the resources it has. The board and the board and staff work well together, signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Chico, and the memorandum agrees that we will maintain the neighborhood parks, and they'll also transfer the majority of the development impact fees. With that, the district is moving ahead with the Rotary Centennial Park, which actually John was instrumental in getting that land reserved, 25 years ago? I can't remember how long ago it was. And we're working on DeGarmo Park. An aquatics facility, I think, is further off because the maintenance cost is just so high. I'm glad we tried Measure A, and I'm glad we listened to the voters.
Okay, Mr. Worley.
Following along, I guess, in that line, we've been talking about the needs because we knew for the last several years, at least since 2015 or so, that we were running into our capacity was getting to be full. We just didn't have any more space, and the needs of the community were just rapidly intensifying. I'd like to point out that Measure A did a lot better than the school bond, which really went down in flames. And I just think we were coming into the COVID crisis and coming out of these things. So I don't think it was a rejection, but I think we do have to look at the resources at hand and then maybe try it again later with another bond issue, if we're especially going to build something big like the aquatic center, really capital intensive.
Thank you. Mr. Merz?
Well, I think a big thing for CARD is that we're not alone. We have a number of different partners, the school district, of course, but maybe some, and of course, the city of Chico and Butte County, for that matter, that recent agreement to have the development impact fees transferred to CARD, at least in the area of community park, in this case, the DeGarmo, I think specifically. That's a really good thing, and we'll provide some startup monies or continuing monies to hopefully finish out that park. That having been said, I think that we need to look maybe a little farther afield for some additional partners, both in the private and public sectors, because of the nature of the kinds of services that we do provide. I think it's also important to remember that we aren't just tax supported, we have user fees. And I think that's an important thing that we need to educate folks about as well in terms of the nature of our budget and the fact that it's a combination of governmental and, if you will, private funds, making CARD be as effective as it is.
Thank you. And I apologize. I was supposed to tell you, give you the signal, and I didn't, so I apologize for that. I'll try to.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next question. The next question. The pandemic has, of course, had a huge impact on the CARD budget, and my understanding is that COVID financial relief funds have not included special districts. What are your ideas to get CARD on a better financial footing for 2021 and beyond? And we will start with Mr. Worley.
Well, the COVID pandemic has just been a game changer, I think, for everybody, for the entire community, for the entire state, for the entire nation. And we still don't know how that is finally going to shake out. One thing that I would say is that, well, finances are tight and are going to be tight. What we're not taking into this, and this is much like 2008, is we're not taking in large deficits and debts. So what we've really done is contracted. As soon as recreational, since so much of our budget is recreationally based, and the recreational programs basically pay for themselves, once we're able to operate again, we will be able to do more. It's just as simple as that. But a lot of it is waiting out the COVID whole disease process and waiting till there's a vaccine.
Thank you. Mr. Merz.
Well, of course, we all are, again, as Michael said, the COVID situation and a lot of other things, including what's going on right now with our air quality, et cetera, really is putting a major dent in people's abilities to recreate, period. And I think that that's something that is dragging us down in some ways, and I'm hoping we get out of this as quickly as is possible. That having been said, CARD has a really excellent history of educating the community relative to the kinds of programs that it has and the outreach that it's done. And I think that we need to continue to spread the word in terms of what CARD is and what CARD might be in the future.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lando.
Well, I think both John and Michael have illustrated it. CARD has been hit particularly hard by the COVID issue. As you mentioned, we provide recreational services. And honestly, a lot of people are afraid to have either themselves or their children close to others. It has hurt the budget. We did not get any CARES Act money. Again, I think that's why it's important to have somebody with some financial background on the board. We're going to have to make some hard decisions over the next year, and hopefully beyond that, we recover.
Okay, thank you. So here is a question from the community, and Mr. Merz, you will be answering it first. And the question is, do you see CARD having a role in the recovery from campfire? The question specifically addresses the ACE scores, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience scores. I'm sorry, Adverse Childhood Experiences score, which was below average before the campfire and is even lower now. So what do you feel CARD can do to assist with this? And Mr. Merz, you're first.
May not really totally understand the question or have enough background, but the bottom line is that the young people in particular are being, I think, well, both young people and actually older folks like myself are being basically really influenced by what's going on in negative ways. And I think we need to do everything we can to address that with, again, our partners, be it the healthcare professionals, the school district again, so on and so forth. We need to look for those partnerships and see in what ways we can be most effective in addressing things that are affecting people on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lando?
Yes, I mentioned that I am working at the Paradise Irrigation District now, and I can tell you over the last week, the trauma up there is amazing, and I'm sure that's happened to the children. CARD does an excellent job of offering educational opportunities and after-school opportunities. Unfortunately, again, with COVID, there are a number of parents who are concerned about taking advantage of that. But I agree with John also, partnering with the school district, we can work on that issue.
Okay, Mr. Worley?
Yeah, and to continue on that line, I would say that the best thing would be as we come out of the crisis, and we don't know if we've hit bottom yet, and that's unfortunate, but would be to rapidly bring back our after school programs and stuff, focusing on children. We haven't really had capacity issues in the past. We may going forward because of the loss of funds. But I would expect that we would be able to get most of our programs back pretty quickly. It's actually a matter of finding the instructors and the people who did the work, because who knows where they're at now, since we haven't been able to use them.
Okay, next question. If elected, what are your top 3 priorities for the next year? And Mr. Lando, you're first.
Okay. First of all, it's to remain financially sound. We don't exist if we don't remain financially sound. It then is to complete the DeGarmo, with the exception of the aquatic facility, and I agree with Michael, at some point we need to ask the voters again, and completion of the neighborhood park system. All those, I believe, are critical to the community's quality of life. I think CARD is a basic cornerstone of the community's quality of life.
Thank you. Mr. Worley?
I think going forward in the next year, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make a faster reopening, and I mean this in a totally safe way. I don't mean just the heck with it all, so don't get me wrong there. But I'm hoping that things will work out so we can more rapidly ramp up, and then by this time next year, pretty much have most of our programs still in place. We do have to watch our finances and can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but hopefully maybe in the new year there'll be changes, and we'll be actually getting some CARES-like funds, because people in government higher up will realize that recreation is important, and we're perfectly positioned to actually make that happen.
Okay, Mr. Merz, top 3 priorities, please.
Yeah, the first one is, as has already been mentioned, the budget, and Michael and Tom are definitely on top of that much more than I am, but I'm a fast learner, and I have had a lot of experience with budgets and things of that nature, so that doesn't faze me. And in fact, I'm looking forward to it. The second goal really is, again, to look into ways to expand CARD's service level, especially in the area of public access to open space lands, a possible establishment of community gardens throughout the community, and the potential, at least in my mind, for creating a citizen-based neighborhood and community parks council that would enhance hopefully CARD's planning process over time. So those are my 3 goals.
Thank you. The next question is from the community. This question concerns a modification to the name of Community Park. Would you be willing to add Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to the name of Community Park to honor him as a great leader for justice? And we will start with Mr. Worley.
God, that's a blast from the past. I know that there was a lot of controversy some years ago, prior to my time on the board, about that. I would actually, in the spirit of adding a name or so, I would actually like to choose somebody who's more local. And I would think adding the name of Joe Person, who was a local community member, actually lived close by to 20th Street Park for a long time, and was very prominent in the civil rights movement in our community. And I think that would be a more appropriate choice. But I understand and why the desire to name the park after Martin Luther King.
Thank you. Mr. Merz?
Generally speaking, I have hesitancy in terms of naming facilities after people, mainly because these are public facilities paid for with public funds. And I think it needs to be a pretty, I don't know, always makes me a little uncomfortable, not who's necessarily being recognized, but who's not being recognized in the process. So I would be hesitant without a much more thorough conversation with the community in general. There are many folks, and Michael just mentioned one who I remember fondly. And I think that's something, if nothing else, I think the idea of having it be locally focused at least is a good place to start.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lando?
I agree with both Michael and John, so you're not going to find much controversy here. I think that naming it is appropriate. I would not be opposed to it. I was city manager when we renamed Whitman to Martin Luther King Parkway, but I also think the neighborhood and the community need to be involved. The field was named after Eddie Booth. There are a number of very worthwhile people. I'm certainly not opposed to it.
Okay. So we have our final question here, and many of you have mentioned, or several of you have mentioned, reaching out to the voters, and that is actually our next question, our final question, and that is, as an elected official, how do you intend to reach out to the people of Chico who put you into office and find out what they want and what they have to say? And we will start with Mr. Merz.
I'm sorry, you're starting with whom?
You, Mr. Merz.
Okay, sorry. As I mentioned before, I think CARD has an excellent outreach history, the calendar events, so on and so forth, services, programs. But I also mentioned, again, as one of my goals, the potential idea of creating a citizen-based council that would be reflective of our neighborhood and community parks and how our community is responding to those, and what they would like, and their concerns that they may have. I think we just need to offer at some point a way for folks to be able to express concerns about our parks, and to not just have meetings at the community center, but to go out into the community and into the neighborhoods and have these conversations when it's safe to do so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lando?
Well, I agree with John. I think it's very important to have outreach, and I think we've done a good job of it. Not to say we couldn't do better, but we include the neighborhoods when we design neighborhood parks. Michael and I were both involved in surveys to attempt to determine whether we should move ahead with Measure A and what should be involved. I I don't believe you can have too much involvement, because the more you have, the more you get support from the community.
Okay. Mr. Worley.
From the beginning, I've always been an advocate. In fact, I've always insisted that before we do anything at any location in a neighborhood, that we have a neighborhood meeting, at least one, if not several. Certain facilities, let's say like the skate park, have more of a user community than really a neighborhood community. Although, you know, we did take input from the people who live right around it and local businesses. But yeah, one of the things is that you can't really build any kind of project. And obviously, if Measure A passed, we started building the facilities, we were going to have a large citizens advisory group, and we're just going to do more of that. I'm just hoping that we will be able to get together more in person in coming period of time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have finished our questions and we're at closing statement time. 2 minutes, and Mr. Lando, you will be first.
Okay, I want to thank the league. I also want to thank John and Michael. I think the voters have a good choice regardless of who they select. Obviously, I hope they select me. I have management and financial experience, and I think it's important, particularly now, to have some continuity of leadership. But beyond that, I think quality of life is whatever any individual thinks it is, whether it's a pool, a field, et cetera. And it's our job to try and meet as many of those needs as we can. And I vow to do that as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Worley.
I think what the purpose of a board member is to reflect the needs and wishes of the community, and being in touch with the community, and working with various members of the community to bring them the most park and the most recreational opportunities that we can. I look forward to doing that in the future. We will emerge from the situation that we're in. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and we will emerge strongly. Like I said, I think we're in much better shape than some of the other entities in the area. And one of the other things that I just didn't get in any of the things is, I also think that we need to build our facilities looking forward to the idea with the fires and all the things that we've had, that we do some disaster. We have the ability to do some disaster, you know, recovery and some disaster assistance. So looking to maybe put shower facilities at the gym in DeGarmo Park, so we could use that as a recovery center. In my other life, I work with FEMA, and I do disaster recovery, and I look forward to helping the community get through this and moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Merz.
Two things. I think that number one, I'm looking forward to the future because again, I think there's all kinds of potential, and things like taking a really serious look. Maybe it already has happened, but to solarize all of our facilities to the maximum extent possible. Things of that nature relative to issues like climate change and so on and so forth. At the same time, recreation can also be looked at as recreation. And I think that that is actually the other part of that opportunity that is going to be hopefully just around the corner. And we need to be ready for that. There's a lot of hard work to do between now and then, of course. In fact, there's hard work to do every day. But I'm looking forward to that. do enjoy these kinds of challenges, and I look forward to working with whomever else is elected, besides myself. And I appreciate the opportunity tonight to talk about this.
Thank you very much to our candidates. This concludes the formal part of our forum. We have 35 days left to Election Day. We would like to urge the candidates and also our audience to check out votersedge.org, which is a full compendium of everything you need to know about voting in California. And we would just like to leave you with the thought, please vote. It's very important. Thank you so much.